The Indianapolis Colts signing cornerback Charvarius Ward and drafting tight end Tyler Ward are by far and away the two biggest moves of this past offseason. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day's daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com, and my partner, Jake Arthur, is our credentialed Crocs on the ground for the site. He'll be out there at minicamp tomorrow, so he's really working out those Crocs in these coming days here.
Barefoot like Jonathan Taylor, baby.
There you go. There you go, Jake. Today, guys, we have a fun show planned for you. We're going to be talking about the moves of the offseason for the Colts. We're going to break down our best moves for the Colts, our worst moves, and moves that we still would like to see the team make, because while we do have a good idea of how this 53-man roster might shake out come this offseason, there are still a few positions up in the air, and we still want to see the Colts maybe do something about a few of these positions here. But to kick off this show, let's start with our best move, or I guess our personal favorite moves, essentially, for the team, Jake. I have mine, you have yours. Let's kick it off with yours here. What was your biggest and best move for this Colts team in the 2025 offseason?
Well, it's the one that we all said they needed to make basically since, October, and that was drafting Tyler Warren in the first round. So throughout the entire draft process, we had to find new ways to put a spin on who they should draft in the first round, but it almost always came with the caveat of if Tyler Warren isn't available. And luckily for the Colts, he was. Colston Loveland went number 10 to the Bears, and it got a little touch and go there, but they were able to land him, and they absolutely needed it. I mean, they did still have some guys with upside on the roster at tight end, but the time is up for waiting on that. And it was very clear that they were missing that element of not only their offense, but the passing game and just in general, because everybody was so role-based and they had to use so many different bodies. I mean, outside of injuries, they would regularly use like 3 or 4 tight ends depending on the matchup. So you have a guy with Tyler Warren where you really only have to use 1 or 2, and just maybe they figure out between Drew Ogletree and Mo Alley Cox who they like more, and then just let that person and Tyler Warren ride. But as far as blocking goes, they have one guy that can cover it now. As far as receiving goes, they have one guy that can cover it. I mean, last year they were last in receptions in the NFL among tight ends and reception rate. Tight ends only caught 52% of the targets they were thrown. That's bad. And then they were second from last in yards. And that's because, oddly enough, like every reception they would ever have was like a chunk play. So they just needed it so bad. And now I think, obviously with the enormous caveat of but the quarterback position, everything else on the offense is relatively complete. We could see what a good Shane Steichen offense looks like if they get adequate quarterback play. I'm not going to say above average or awesome, but just baseline quarterback play. I think adding a guy like Tyler Warren just completely unlocks the offense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's kind of funny, though, when it comes to the selection of Tyler Warren, because, there have been draft picks in the past that we have, predicted to the Colts, obviously, not just us in general, but Colts fans too. I think, if we're talking the month of the draft, the Anthony Richardson and Quentin Nelson picks were pretty easy to predict. And if you want to even go further back than the month of the draft, I think everyone in Colts Nation was calling for Kwity Paye being a great fit for the Colts during that draft one. But when it comes to Tyler Warren to the Colts, that was written in the stars for a year, it felt like. He felt like the perfect fit for this team, exactly what the Colts and Chris Ballard would covet, and he fit the position that the team needed the most, especially on offense. So, yeah, Tyler Warren was just kind of written in the stars for so long, and to see him be available come their pick on draft day, we all kind of knew who that pick was going to be, and it's going to be Tyler Warren. So even though it was so obvious and we kind of ran the Tyler Warren topic into the ground all offseason, it didn't make the move any less significant for the team. Like, he really does fit everything this offense was looking for.
It did almost like not by any means a letdown, but it almost didn't feel exciting anymore by the time it happened because it felt like such a foregone conclusion and the thing that had to happen.
Right.
It would have been a letdown if it was just about any other outcome, it felt like. But it felt just like, okay, yes, this is business as usual. That was a box we needed to check in the offseason to move on to the next thing. So, I mean, luckily it happened for them, but arguably the other most significant move of the offseason happened a month beforehand.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, like in a similar-ish vein, Charvarius Ward signing at cornerback was kind of the same thing as Tyler Warren, whereas like similar to Warren, like I did a film room on Warren before the draft, like the day before the draft, and the Colts ended up taking him. Charvarius Ward was the only free agent I did a film room on before free agency kicked off, and he was the guy the Colts ultimately ended up signing. And it was a guy that a lot of us were really saying the Colts need to go out and get, but they were able to close the deal and get that number one corner. And for me, this is the most impactful move the Colts made this offseason because their defense has just needed a guy like this for so long. Like, even if Gus Bradley were still here, they needed that top number one corner. I recently did a film room where I watched every single snap of Jalen Jones from this past season. And look, Jalen Jones is a good corner, like a really solid corner, probably the best case scenario you can get out of a 7th round pick. But athletically, he's just not a guy who can match up with number one wide receivers. He can't move with the Justin Jeffersons and the Nico Collins of the world. And the Colts really didn't have a guy on the roster who could take away those options or at least make those options work a little bit. When you get a guy like Charvarius Ward, I mean, this is a guy who's 2 seasons removed from an all-pro season, one of the best seasons in recent NFL history, I think, when it comes to like just cornerback play, had sky-high pass breakups, a lot of interceptions, really disruptive player, was traveling with number ones for a good chunk of that season as well. Like, he did a lot of things great for the 49ers 2 years ago, and the Colts kind of got him on a relatively cheaper deal because he had that down year with horrible tragedy in his life. And obviously we hope the best for him going forward, just from a personal and from a player standpoint. But the Colts were able to get him on a pretty decent deal because of that. And they're getting a legit, all-pro caliber corner that's still kind of at the end of his prime right now. And you only get him for essentially like the 3-year deal, but essentially a 2-year contract. The Colts can get out of it if there is anything negative. So at the end of the day, they're getting an all-pro caliber player at cornerback, which is one of the most important positions on the team. And if all goes wrong, you still can get out of this deal within 2 years. So I think this was the perfect like swing for the fences type move that Chris Ballard can make in the offseason. You're getting a high character guy who's had to earn everything in the NFL, who's become an all-pro caliber player, and a guy who can travel and harass number one wide receivers and just make life easier for the rest of your defense. So it opens up what Lou Anarumo wants to do going forward, and it makes this Colts defense so much better. Like, their floor is so much higher when you have a guy like Charvarius Ward. So, Tyler Warren's great. I don't want to put too much expectations on a rookie tight end in year one, though. But the guy I want to put expectations on is the all-pro corner that they're bringing in here to be their number one guy. And I think he's going to be a fantastic player for their team.
Yeah, on paper, this is an even bigger corner signing than Xavier Rhodes or Stephon Gilmore, and even more so than when they traded for Vontae Davis back in the day, because Gilmore was already like well over 30, already like near the end. Xavier Rhodes was coming off like the rockiest stretch of his career, essentially. And Vontae Davis was like a really good, like Pro Bowl level corner. But Charvarius Ward is like an all-pro top 5 caliber corner. So yeah, this is excellent. And this one is, I mean, there was nothing to not like about it to begin with, but it's grown on me as the offseason has progressed, because we've kind of seen the Colts plan come into place for the secondary. Lou Anarumo obviously was kind of the first domino there in January, beginning of February, whenever. But, I spoke to Chris Hewitt recently, and we've seen the other things they've done at corner, especially like drafting Justin Wally and then doing some of the other things at corner. They weren't satisfied, and they needed to bring in like new types for Lou Anarumo. And Charvarius Ward was absolutely slam dunk type of corner for this defense. They had big plans for him. They haven't, before they even saw him take a snap on the practice field for them, they said, we want you shadowing receivers in certain matchups. So the Colts belief in this, and just what we've seen from Ward in the recent past. Obviously, you need to see what happens, because the last time, last year, he just was not there mentally. But last time we saw him really engaged, he was one of the best corners in the entire league. So I'm really all in on this. We know how much coverage helps the pass rush, and those things work in concert. So if the Colts can get an improved pass rush, we know their coverage is better. So I'm just excited to see how the entire defense feeds off of a move like this.
Yeah, for my money, Charvarius Ward is a top 10, fringe top 5 cornerback in the NFL. The Colts getting him on the open market is a huge win for me. And no matter what they did in the draft, even if they trade up to the first pick and got, one of those guys, I think the Ward signing still would have been the biggest move of the offseason for them, just because he is that kind of gravitational pull as a player. Like, he is going to make this defense better, and he allows Lou Anarumo to be Lou Anarumo. By far and away, one of my favorite moves the Colts have made in the Chris Ballard era.
Yep, without a doubt. So, guys, coming up next, you can't win them all. We didn't love every move that the Colts made, so let's talk about our least favorite moves of the offseason. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. We're about midway through the Eastern Conference Finals that the Pacers are going to inevitably win. And every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So tonight at 8 p.m., back at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The Pacers are 2-point favorites in this one, narrow favorites. We'll see how it goes. Over-under of 220.5 points. I mean, this rivalry is getting heated. People are fighting in the stadiums. They're dumping trash on each other outside. In a healthy way, go ahead and throw your money at FanDuel and let them know what you think. So you don't have to get involved in all the toxicity of this really nasty, renewed, budding rivalry again. So, again, go to FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Zach. So there are, as far as individual players goes that the Colts have picked up, there's really only one that's been polarizing. I mean, I think everyone's pretty on board with Charvarius Ward, Camryn Bynum, for the most part, the guys they drafted. But there's one guy who drew a major line in the sand. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away with what was your least favorite move of the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've been just beating this drum since the minute the move was made, but I personally can't get behind the Daniel Jones signing, and I just don't like it. Like, I know as we get closer to the season, everyone talks themselves into every move for their team, and we get excited about it. But for me, when I'm looking at this Daniel Jones signing, he was basically given the money to be a big upgrade over Joe Flacco and Gardner Minshew, and what they did for this team the last 2 years. And personally, I don't see him as an upgrade over those two options. Like, I guess on paper, the former top 10 pick pedigree kind of pushes Anthony Richardson, but this was a guy who was available halfway through the season last year because he was released from his team. Like, if the Colts really, really liked him, you could have just grabbed him on the open market when he was cut. You could have claimed him on waivers when he was waived, but I know there was a lot more with that. I'm being facetious here, but I just don't see it with Daniel Jones. I don't think he's a guy who's decisive enough to be as good in the quick game as Gardner Minshew. I don't think he's poised enough to be good enough as good in the deep game or on third downs as Joe Flacco was. And I just see a player who, they're selling us as this competition in the offseason for Anthony Richardson. And look, I'm not saying Anthony Richardson is that much ahead of him, because Richardson has struggled through 2 seasons with the Colts. But again, if you're trying to sell me that he's some different tier of player than Joe Flacco or Gardner Minshew, I just don't see it. I see him as a guy on a similar tier of those guys, and he's getting significantly more money and more of an opportunity to win a starting job than those two guys did. And I just can't be sold that he's a better option than even those two guys were. Personally, I know that a lot of this signing is for the optics. It's for the optics of pushing Richardson, of trying to get the best out of Richardson, and, all the media hoopla with that kind of stuff there. But I think when we're really looking at the film of Daniel Jones, we're looking at what he feasibly brings to the team and what he could feasibly do if he did get an opportunity. My expectations are like lower than what we got out of Gardner Minshew and Joe Flacco. And I don't like that the money was given to a guy who I think is lower than those two as a player. So yeah, I'm just not a fan of the Daniel Jones signing. Look, when it comes to quarterback takes with the Colts, anytime I'm negative, I hope I'm wrong, because quarterbacks will make or break your season.
Yeah.
So me, turning on Anthony Richardson recently, like some people are saying, and being low on Daniel Jones, I hope I'm dead wrong on both of them. But ultimately, man, there's nothing inspiring about Daniel Jones. Even his good season with the Giants, a lot of it was first read or scramble, and it's just not sustainable for a quarterback who's not very athletic. Maybe people think he's athletic just because he has to run more because he's a horrible thrower, but that's essentially what it is with Daniel Jones. I would have preferred Gardner Minshew back, honestly. Like, I think Gardner Minshew would have led the Colts to more wins if he had an opportunity this year, because of that familiarity with Shane Steichen, because of his ability in the short game. Yes, the deep ball is atrocious. Yes, I would have cried for Alec Pierce and his potential if Gardner Minshew got a chance again. But I do think he's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, and he got a fraction of the money. So, yeah, I just can't get behind the Daniel Jones signing. I would have preferred anyone else at that price tag, and ultimately, like, I think your team is better if you go get like a Minshew at like whatever he got, and go sign another free agent for the extra $10 million, and you would have saved on a comp pick. Like, they lost like a 4th round comp pick for Daniel Jones too.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, it's just. I get it optically. I get the signing because you had to do it optically, but that's $18 million or whatever it was invested into just a media hoopla thing that you're going for. Like, I just don't like. I can't talk myself into it whatsoever.
Yeah, I'll say I don't hate it. It probably wasn't my preferred option. I'm gathering, like, for me, you don't like the move whatsoever, but probably the money was maybe the biggest issue.
Yeah, if you gave him what was given to Minshew or Flacco the last 2 years, fine. Backup quarterbacks get a little too much anyway.
Yeah.
And I would have been okay with it. But again, the money being so much more than what they gave to quarterbacks who, honestly, I think are better fits in this system than him and Flacco and Minshew, that's really where I draw the line in the sand.
Okay. Yeah. So with me, my thinking with the quarterback situation was basically, like, what else are they going to do? Like, if you went for a Justin Fields or a Sam Darnold, which a lot of people wanted, those aren't really competition moves. Those are guys who are going to start. Like, with Justin Fields, maybe not as much, but he had the option to take more money and a starting spot with the Jets, basically. So the Colts didn't want to pull the plug on Richardson. They wanted to legitimately give him a shot. So there just wasn't much more out there. And I mean,
Right.
I think they truly do have a belief in Daniel Jones that he could legitimately push Anthony. They've seen Flacco. They've seen Gardner. I don't think they have huge faith in Gardner, but I don't know. Like, I just don't know what else was out there. The money probably was a bit much, but they also felt like they were in a bidding war, although Minnesota did offer more money. So
I would have let Minnesota offer that more money,
right,
like
but then the other thing of it is, though, Anthony has missed 17 games because of injury. You got to have someone else to go out there.
100%. I'm going to let you get to yours real quick because we're going to spend a whole show talking about this. 100% they needed somebody.
Yeah.
I would have preferred someone who could throw the football a little bit better, is all I'm saying
agree.
here.
I mean, look, I'm not super for the move. To me,
Right.
I'm just like, what can you do? This isn't the offseason to have this problem.
If you want to light $18 million on fire, you could have just given it back to Gardner. Gardner was fun.
It's not my money. No, Gardner was not fun. You mentioned that.
Wait until you see Daniel Jones. Wait until you see Daniel Jones.
I mean, I was never a Jones fan. Like, coming into the draft, I thought he was overrated. I was like, this guy just throws sideline fades. He doesn't do anything else. And, not much has transpired. But number one, I hope Anthony wins the job, and because that's where the upside is, and that we don't really have to see Jones in the first place. But, it is what it is. Like, I'm just it's someone who started 69, 70 games, whatever it is. But my thing that I really disliked this offseason was not taking the linebacker situation more seriously. So basically the Colts, it's not like they didn't try. Like, there were guys in the draft that they liked, and it just didn't work out. I don't think they had a huge pool of guys that they loved, but like the guys they did, the timing just wasn't there throughout the draft. Free agency, they probably could have done something, but similar to the Anthony Richardson thing, they kind of had to be careful with the caliber player they brought in because they do want Jalen Carlisle to be their will. And they've also said, under Lou Anarumo, they're going to be running so much, nickel and dime that they're not going to need linebackers as much, yada, yada, yada. But like, if you just add good players to your defense, they will find ways to get on the field. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't just discount a position. I know they love Zaire, and he never would have been replaced this offseason. Jalen Carlisle, we've both talked about, super in favor of him getting the nod. My thing is, you're taking a clear position of it lacks depth, and it's not necessarily a strength. It's just like they didn't even really try. Now, I know Hunter Wohler is mainly a safety, but he's going to play some dime linebacker when it comes up. But it's like, both guys right now, both of your starting linebackers are basically out until training camp with injuries. That's not great because it's a position you told us you didn't really need to mess with too much all offseason. And then, hopefully they're back by training camp. But I mean, if they get hurt during the season, how comfortable do you feel with that? You can say that you like Shegu Alubi and you like Cameron McGrone and you think Hunter Wohler can get out there, but like, why have to roll the dice there? Why not give yourself some insurance and be like, okay, we're good now. Like, you could turn this into a position of relative strength by just adding like another capable veteran. That's all it took. It's just, this is a position where this is a we like our guys position.
Yeah.
Again, I think they probably would have added guys if certain situations would have arisen earlier in the offseason, but that doesn't mean you stop trying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I would add on to that, but I ran way too long on my Daniel Jones hate. So coming up, Jake's going to tell us on exactly what position he thinks the Colts should add at prior to the season. I wonder what position he's going to go with in this final segment. Alrighty, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we are back talking all about what position we like to see the Colts add at prior to the season, because there are still moves to be made out there. There's still some veterans that are on the open market that could help this team. So Jake, is there a position in mind that you think the Colts should add some competition at?
Yeah, so linebacker seems like, it's right for the pick in there.
I recently heard someone talking about how they needed to add a linebacker. So yeah, I for sure think that.
Yeah, so if you would have like rewound right after the draft, I could have talked myself into it a little bit, like that they didn't need anyone to threaten to start really. Like, I didn't love the depth, but que sera, whatever. You bring another capable person in and then you're fine. But now that both of your starters are out this offseason, again, this is not expected to go into the regular season, but it shows you how fragile the position is now. Because when we go there to practice tomorrow, it's probably going to be Shegu Alubi, and I don't know who else at linebacker.
Probably Cam McGrone, I would guess, would be your other starter.
How much do you love that, Zach? You probably don't.
No, it's not great.
Like, things can happen in the NFL. And again, they can discount the position all they want, but you don't have to. Like, there are still guys out there. And again, the offseason's not done. But to me, like, I wasn't super on board with the Jermaine Pratt thing because he was a little too similar to Zaire Franklin. They had some similar issues. And I don't love the idea of like signing a guy who is like, you're probably going to have to start him. But at this point, I'm like, man, the depth is pretty shaky now that we know these guys aren't like ironclad health-wise. Because again, Carlisle is rehabbing something now, but he also missed like 7 games as a rookie. We haven't seen him yet for a full season. So Jermaine Pratt, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, you would love for maybe the Bengals to cut him, and then you pick something up there because, I mean, they got Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter and Oren Burks. Like, they have replaced him essentially. So eventually maybe they'll cut him. Kaiser White's a guy we've mentioned before. Jawan Bentley, his season ended early last year due to a pec injury. But those are three guys who you sign them and they're probably starting or at least like really nipping for playing time there. But then there's some more modest guys who have started before and played serious snaps before, but they're more so going to be special teams guys who can play if you need them to. Duke Riley, Chris Barnes, they're both guys who've been there and done that and have played decently. That's more of the flavor for me. I don't really want to add guys who you almost have to start. But yeah, Duke Riley's a guy I was in love with coming out of LSU back in the day. His career has not gone the way I thought it did, but he's played tons of special teams, has played decent ball. And then Chris Barnes has done the same for the Cardinals recently. I think the Packers before. So linebacker, do it.
Yeah, no, I can see your passion for linebacker right now, Jake. I just let you talk for like 10 straight minutes on it, but
I've only been complaining about it and feeling worse about it for like the last 2 weeks, so I had to get it out.
Yeah, I will say I'm wondering if they are waiting out the Jermaine Pratt situation with the Bengals.
Probably.
Because Pratt has been pretty vocal about how much he loves Lou Anarumo. The Bengals slow play everything, which is obvious. I mean, look, T. Higgins took 3 years to get an extension. We're looking at Jermaine Pratt right now. We have no clue what's going on there. Trey Hendrickson is starting to attack the team in the media. Like, the Bengals slow play everything to a stupid degree, and this is what we're seeing as a result of that. So who knows what happens with the Jermaine Pratt situation, but I do wonder if the Colts are waiting on that because I think if he does get released or cut, I do think the Colts would be an obvious destination. I think Anarumo and Pratt would both be a fan of that reunion there. So there is still time for the Colts to improve upon that, but I will at least say at linebacker, while I'm not super intrigued or excited about the prospects of a Segu Alubi or a Cam McGrone or Hunter Wohler starting games at linebacker, I feel better about those guys than whatever the heck I feel about the backups at safety. So my big addition is bring me somebody who can play safety at an NFL level to be their third or fourth safety. I mean, we can sit here all offseason, and don't worry, we will, because this is who we are as people. We'll be excited about Hunter Wohler and Trey Washington and Daniel Scott, because I've been waiting years to get excited about Daniel Scott again. We'll be excited about them come training camp, because that's who we are as people. We get excited about the low-end guys. But realistically, the odds of one of these guys being a competent third safety for the team, I guess Rodney Thomas is also in there as well, but Rodney Thomas I'm mostly out on, obviously, as you guys can tell, for the Colts. So the odds of any of those guys being a competent third safety for this team are very, very low. And we've seen it with this Colts team in the past. You know, when you are one injury away from a non-rosterable player starting games for you, it can kill you. They got so lucky last year at corner, where we were saying it prior to the season, like, we're fine with Juju Brents and Jalen Jones starting out the year as your top two corners, but they are one injury away from guys who should not be starting in the NFL starting games. And that one injury happened to Juju Brents. We saw a couple games of Dallas Flowers post Achilles that was just not ready to play on the NFL, and it cost them that Jaguars game in a big way. But they got super, super lucky with Samuel Womack being an NFL caliber player. So outside of getting just super lucky at safety, they're playing with fire again at another defensive position in the secondary, whereas like guys like Cross and Bynum have been extremely healthy in their careers at this point. Knock on wood. Obviously knocking on wood as I say that. But again, you're playing with fire. Like if one of those guys goes down with an injury, like if Cross goes down, Hunter Wohler's your starting strong safety as of right now. No, absolutely not. Like we can't do that in the NFL. And then at free safety, if Bynum goes down, we're back to Rodney Thomas or if Daniel Scott can make it to the regular season. I like Trey Washington. I really do, but I don't want him starting games tomorrow. Like, come on, like let's get somebody in here. I know Von Bell's probably on speed dial right now for this Colts team because him and Lou Anarumo are just best buddies. But like, I got to feel comfortable about this safety position. Please bring me somebody who knows how to play football. Like just a guy who's been there, done that for a little bit. As the third safety. I'm terrified of playing with fire at safety. We saw it in 2018 with this team when, I mean, gosh, they had a playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs where they were starting a free agent off the street in the playoff game. Yeah, J.J. Wilcox was starting games in the playoffs for them. Like, please don't do this at safety. Please don't do this at safety. Just bring in somebody who has been there, done that. Like, even if Trey Washington comes in, looks like awesome and just beats that guy out in camp, awesome. I'm all for it. But like, let him beat somebody out in camp. Like, let's not put him up against Daniel Scott and his leg injuries. Like, let's put him up against like a guy who's capable of playing in the NFL and go from there. So yeah, like how you feel about linebacker, I'm terrified looking at it. I almost said right guard depth, honestly, for this episode, and then I forgot about safety, and it made me angry all over again. I went back to safety for it. So yeah, please bring me a safety, please. Somebody who can play.
I'm with you, and this one is almost as egregious, or probably more, because there's a super recent example of them having issues at safety last year, and that's when Julian Blackmon had that shoulder injury in week 1 or week 2 and had to play the entire year through it, and it didn't look good. There was no one behind him who they could turn to be confident to play competent football, and that's kind of happening again. Like you said, who's starting if Cross or Bynum gets hurt? It's the NFL. No one is made of titanium. Like, someone's going to get hurt at some point. I mean, we hope not. I mean, those guys have been pretty healthy, like you mentioned, but it's the NFL, man. Like, you just don't have to say we have young and experienced guys that we like. Like, you can have confidence in who you're going to. We're not saying go get Justin Simmons, because that's what you probably should have done last year. I mean, he's still out there, but like, there's guys out there who can play football. You mentioned Von Bell is out there. He at least speaks Lou Anarumo's language.
Right. Man, Rich Wheeler in our comments right here bringing up my PTSD with Andrew Sendejo. I completely forgot that Sendejo played here. That was awful.
I haven't. Don't worry.
That was the worst experience. Yeah, like, just I don't want to be in that situation again where it's an Andrew Sendejo or a JJ Wilcox, or I mean, I know Mitchell worked out for them back in that 2018 season, but like more as just a vibe than an actual player. You know, like, bring me somebody in the off season who knows what they're doing, and let's go from there. But yes, I'm terrified about safety. Jake's terrified about linebacker. I also hate Daniel Jones, but don't worry, we're optimistic about Charvarius Ward and Tyler Warren. So you guys let us know in the comments section your favorite move of the offseason for the Colts, your least favorite move, and obviously what move you still want to see. Are you as worried about linebacker and safety as Jake and I are? Let us know in the comment section below. And thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and news never stop. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And as you guys can tell, I'm actually healthy because I could get through that entire spiel right there without dying. So finally, you guys can hear my real voice again. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews as well. And we'll catch you guys back here later this week.